Hello, my name is Mark, and today I want to take a look at how to adjust parts within CATIA inside the 3D experience so that they go back to the origin. There's really two main methods for being able to do this. One thing I want to point out is when parts are designed, they can either be designed in assembly position or they can be designed around their origin. If they're being built bottom up, usually the parts are designed individually and then assembled for the first time in the assembly, and you will have to move them away, most of them away from the origin to be able to get them into the position you want them to be in. If they're designed top down, then you usually have a structure that you're working with, and you're able to align your parts and design them in vehicle position or aircraft position or whatever assembly you happen to be working with. Now, one thing that the CATIA within the 3D experience does for us is it will show us this little extrusion symbol for a part and this symbol for an assembly, but notice this one has a little axis system in yellow and this one doesn't. However, this one for a part file does have that little axis system. If you see that axis system, it means it's not at the origin of the assembly. So the parts origin, or 000, is not aligned with the assembly's 000. This one is, so it was built around 000, and the others were not. Now, if you want to be able to move them back to that position, one method is to use your robot over here. What you can do is right-click on that robot, go to, well, we're going to say snap automatically to selected object, and that means whichever part or assembly product you select on, it will snap to it. So it's snapped technically to the part's origin. If you went and unhid the default datum planes inside this bucket, right-click, hide show, those three datum planes are exactly where that axis system robot snapped to. Now, if I want to be able to move it back to the origin, I can move the robot in different positions. There's engineering connections here that are holding it in position. But what you can do is double click on it, the robot itself. It will pop up with this screen, which went on a different screen of mine. And what you can do is simply set this back to the origin, or 0, 0, and I'm typing 0 and hitting tab to be able to quickly jump through those. And when I hit apply, now it moves the robot back to this position. It didn't move the bucket because of my engineering connections. Let's say I didn't have those engineering connections, or if I deleted them. Let's see here. So if I came in here and found which ones I wanted to get rid of, let's see which ones affect the bucket. There's one that affects the bucket, I'll delete that one. There's one that affects the bucket, I'll delete that one. Now I could do this in other ways, but by removing that, I no longer have any engineering connections that affect that. Again, I have snap turned on the robot. I select anywhere on that bucket, it automatically jumps to its origin. And now if I double click on the robot, set all my values to 0, and hit apply, it moves the origin of the part to align with the origin of the assembly. Okay, so we see that it moves it back into that position. Also, you'll notice that the bucket no longer shows the little yellow axis system. Okay. Now, I could do this to other components. Now, these parts weren't designed so that being in the origin will help them, but I can have my compass, let's close this, snap to that assembly. It jumps to the assembly's origin, which happens to be out here. And then I will double click on the robot and be able to say 0, 0 and apply. And it will move those components. Well, I'm running into the same issue I had before. Because the engineering connections are on it, it's still listening to the engineering connections and constraints that are there. But if it wasn't, it would pull those parts into that position, especially if you just drop them in or have moved them around. Okay, now there is one other method. Let's go ahead and take this part. I'm going to make sure that it has no engineering connections controlling it. So that is an engineering connection that controls it. I'll delete that one. There's another one that's controlling those parts. And I could disable them. It would be another way of doing that. But now that I have it free, oh, still one more. Now that it's free, what I can do is take that component. We know that it's not at the origin because the little yellow axis system's there. Right click on it and go to Properties. The Properties window appears. Okay, once the property window is available, up here at the top, it's showing me the transformation where the origin is in relation to the assembly it's in. I can click this Reset Instance Position to Identity, and it will zero out those values, puts it at translation 0, 0, 0 here. It's pointing the X, the Y, and the Z direction. That's where those ones come from. And when I hit apply, that part has now moved to align with the others. Now I've got it buried here, but it's now positioned inside this assembly at the origin. And if I used my robot and said snap to that component, I could now pull it out and reposition it. As soon as I do, the yellow axis appears. So those are some ways of being able to reset the position back to the origin, especially helpful if you forgot to constrain your parts, moved them out of position, out away from the origin. Now when you say front view, they don't align. You can quickly send them back to their origins without having to delete them and reinsert them into the assembly. Hope that helps.